Uh, all right, let's start. So every time we need to start 5 minutes after 2 o'clock because the automated recording system starts after 5 minutes. The lecture should actually start it. So this is our first lecture for a brand new course. And this is today's outline. So I will be going through introducing the course staffs. I will be introducing you the syllabus of this course, and I will do a quick introduction to software testing. So obviously I'm the first staff. I'm actually a lecturer joining UNSW last year, and previously I was working in Nanyang Technological University, which is a university in Singapore, and and my research was actually very related to the subject of this course, and that is software testing. And that's all about me. You can find my website. You can find more details about me on my website. And if you are interested in what my personal website is made up of, the tech stack is Docusaurus plus React plus Design. Actually, I do a bit of everything, like full stack. I also do testing. So here are some other course admins for this course. So the first one is Sarah Chen. She was actually a course admin, a tutor for COMP3142 in the last 2 terms, and she's running this course as a course admin. She's more on the admin stuffs. And also the second course admin for this course is Shuang Xiang, and he's more on the technical stuffs. And we have a special member for this course. And I believe all of you have heard about ChatGPT, right? And maybe many of you are using it. And you have to register an account to use, to interact with our special member here. So the special member is called Pai, and it's actually short for short hair, British short hair. It's actually not a cat, or maybe not just a cat. It's actually an AI tutor. And the advantage of Pai is that it is always available as far as you have internet access, and it's very user friendly for introvert people like me. And it is what is special about Pai than a normal ChatGPT. So it is actually powered by the essence of textbooks. So if you have heard about retrieval augmented generation, so Pai is implemented on top of some knowledge base, and it has equipped with some customized knowledge about this course, and we will keep updating the knowledge base of Pai. However, it is still an AI, so it hallucinates, and it means that sometimes when you use ChatGPT, it confidently tells you that it knows that thing, but actually it is wrong. So this is called hallucination. And because Pai is essentially built on top of ChatGPT, it hallucinates. So please come to ask humans if you are not sure. And here are the rules for using Pai. Basically no rules. You can do whatever you like, but if you have encountered any bugs of Pai, you should report the bugs on this thread on our forum. So that's all about the course staffs, and now let's jump into the course organization. So here are the useful course websites. So our main website is WebCMS, and it is used to host the lecture slides. It's used to host the assignment specifications, and you will find the quizzes on this WebCMS as well. And for Moodle, we won't be using Moodle a lot. It is only used for accessing the lecture recordings. And for those who are watching recording, you'll be using Moodle a lot. And for ED, we are using it for room. And are you all invited to this ED? All of you are in, right? Okay, good. If not, you can use this link and you can scan the QR code. And this is the timeline for this course. Is approximate of the time plan, because if we could do everything on time. So in the first week, we will be doing the introduction, which is what I'm doing now. And in the second lecture, we will cover some basic concepts of testing. And in the second week, we will be, in the second, third, and fourth week, actually, we will be covering some basic testing techniques, some fundamental techniques. And on the fifth week, we will be covering a very practical technique called fuzz testing. It is used mostly for detecting vulnerabilities. And the sixth week is flexible week, so we don't have any lectures. And in the seventh week, we will be covering two important concepts related to software testing. And for the rest of the weeks, we will be covering some useful testing techniques. And here is the correspondence of the lecture content and assessments. So we have to do assignment 1 before week 4, because you know, in USW you can drop the course freely before week 4. So if you don't like this course after doing assignment 1, so you can drop it freely. So we have to do it. And so that means that assignment 1 will be basically based on the content of the first 3 weeks. And unfortunately, we can't test you how well you understand the content of week 4 in assignment 1. And assignment 1 will be like a take-home exam, so you can do it in your home. And for quiz 1, it will be covering levels of testing and the 2 important concepts. And for quiz 2, it will be covering some concepts related to the useful testing techniques. And for assignment 2, it is mainly based on fuzz testing, which is covered in week 5. So that's why we will teach you fuzzing on week 5, so you can read some materials in the flexible week. And it may also involve some concepts from some other course content. It may also involve some concepts of software complexity or maybe mutation testing as well. So that's roughly the time plan for this course. And you may wonder, why are we learning these course content? Why are we learning this? Actually, most of the content are from textbooks. And actually, before this term, the bookshop in USW was asking me which textbook I would like to use, so they can purchase some and sell the textbook to you. But I told them that I won't be using any of the textbooks because most of the textbooks, I don't think they ordered the content rationally. So, for example, in this, in many textbooks, they focus on testing as part of a software engineering process or testing in the software development lifecycle. But this course is essentially not a development course. This is a testing course. So I would focus more on testing techniques rather than how to apply testing in development. So that's the first textbook. The second one is, so some textbooks, they tend to mix the concept of testing with program analysis. But there are other courses covering program analysis here in USW, so I won't include those content. And for some other books, they even include some math content. So that's definitely not related, very related to what I want to teach. So that's why I'm not using this textbook as well. And as for the rationale of selecting these content, this is why I selected these content for this course. So for the first part, until week 4, you will be learning some fundamental concepts and some fundamental techniques, such as black box testing, which is also called functional testing, or white box testing, which is also called structural testing. These fundamental techniques or fundamental concepts will be used in some specific or some practical testing techniques. So that's why they are assessed with a 30% assignment 1. So they are quite important. And for assignment 2, I will teach you probably the most practical approach for detecting vulnerabilities in software, and that is called fuzz testing. So you will work in groups, and you will try to develop a fuzzer that is capable of detecting vulnerabilities in real-world software. And the third part are some important concepts related to testing. So these concepts are not specific to software testing. You may encounter these concepts in some other places, but they are very important for testing. So I will teach you these concepts, and I will also teach you some other useful testing techniques. And actually, there are a lot more useful techniques, but these are the ones I selected. So here are some prerequisites for you to succeed in this course. So the first one is that I would expect you to know some basics about Linux commands. So as you could see, the laptop I'm using is installed with a Linux system. So, for example, you should know ls, cd, apt guide, etc. And the more the better. And the second prerequisite is that you should know the basics about Docker. So, because for assignment 2, you will be using Docker for the development, and you should be able to read and write C. So why are we particularly interested in C language in this course? It's because for assignment 2, we are doing fuzz testing, and we are trying to detect vulnerabilities. And vulnerabilities in C programs are particularly important because C programs are used for some infrastructures like system kernels, like those very basic libraries of every system. So, and C can operate on memory directly. So you can use pointer to operate on system memories. So if we find a vulnerability in a C program, it could cause much more harm than if we find a vulnerability in a Python program. So that's why we are particularly interested in C. And you may wonder, Rust could also do similar things to C, but why are we not using Rust? Because Rust is very safe. So it is normally free from those kind of low-level memory errors. So that's why we are interested in C programs. And ideally C++ and Rust, because some of the testing tools are implemented in C++ or Rust. You may want to use them for your assignment too, but that's not required. And it's better if you know how to compile different C program projects with different compilation systems like the Makefile, like CMake. And of course, you can get help from PyPy, you can get help from the generative AI. So don't worry about this. And you don't have, and I remember some of the students asked me about the relation with COMP3141. You don't have to take that course in advance. We are trying to, these two courses are trying to solve similar problems from different angles. So you don't have to take that course in advance. And this is the expected workload for this course. So for assignment 1, it is an individual assignment. It is a mixture of MCQs and coding questions. And it should keep you busy for 1 week. And for assignment 2, it is group-based coding plus individual report plus peer evaluation. So you should form a group of 3 or 4 students. If you cannot form a group before week 6, we will help you. Our class staff will help you to form a group. And this should ideally keep you busy for until the end of this course. And because it's a group-based project, and I was a student doing some group projects before, and I know that there's a lot of drama when it comes to groups. And I hope there's no drama in this term, in this course. But if there is, we still have peer evaluation, right? And you can still reach us, you can still send us emails to tell us what happened, and we will try to solve the problems. And why I want to make it a group-based project is because you will need to learn to collaborate eventually, because when you go to work, no one works as a single person team, right? You will always work in teams in companies, so you need to learn to collaborate. And the second reason is because I wish you could build something useful in assignment 2, and there's only 1 month like after week 6. So if you want to build something useful in 1 month, you have to form a team, right? So that's why I still insist on making it a group-based assignment. And because there are individual reports, and the individual report will consist a heavy weight for this assignment. And don't try to deceive me in your report. And because I have watched 500 series of case closed, and actually I encountered these kind of cases before. And can you tell the difference between this and this? That was a fill-in-the-blank answer from a student in one of the courses I taught before. Actually, the expected answer is an empty string made up of 2 single quotes, and the student's answer is 1 double quote. And it definitely means that the student was asking me why my answer was wrong, and I could tell that the student copied or just copied the answer from their friend, because you can because they don't do it, and they just think, okay, there's such a symbol and it should be a double quote, and that's the case here. So don't try to deceive me in a report. And the desired learning outcome. So apart from the learning outcomes of from the so-called Eclipse or eCourse from the official website of UNSW, that's required by the university, so that's not required by me. So the desired learning outcome from me is, for the fundamental knowledge of the fundamental concepts or techniques, you should know the mechanisms of these techniques, and you should understand the concepts. And for fuzzing, for assignment 2, ideally, after doing this, you could be a bug bounty hunter, and I will tell you what is a bug bounty hunter later today. And probably you can win a prize from Google, because every year Google is organizing a fuzzing competition, and if you can do well in your in your assignment 2, maybe you can try to attend the competition and earn a prize. The first prize is 10K USD, more than 10K, I think. So that's very attractive, and that's the ideal case. But at least I think I hope you could build something that is usable, not even useful. All right, usable. So for the useful techniques, what I expect is that you could know their mechanisms, and you should know there is such a thing. So maybe one day when you are working and your boss tell you to do this and do that, and you could remember that, okay, I learned this before. But maybe you can't remember what exactly you have learned, but at least you know there's such a thing. You have heard about it in one of the courses you have taken. So that's my expectation. And here are some policies for this course. So in the class, try not to talk during the lecture unless you are answering or asking questions, because we have a small classroom. If you talk, you may affect others. And for generative AI, so I believe the university has their own policies. And my expectation is that because you are computer science students, no one is taking this as an elective, right? So, so you should be able to tame these generative AIs. You should use them, but you should not just get replaced by them. So and using them well is not easy. So you should use them, but try not to rely on these AI models, especially for the report. You can use the generative AI to help you to refine your report, to refine your writings, but try not to use AI to generate the report. Because I use ChatGPT every day, and I know I could easily tell whether a piece of text is generated by an AI or not. So for assessments, for the other policies about assessments, you should just follow UNSW's general policies. And I wish we could implement a special mechanism for this course called grade escalation marks, but seeing the attendance the attendance rate for the first lecture, I doubt if this would work or not. But if you are watching the recording, you will regret for not attending this physically, for not attending this course physically. So in the past, there are some students complaining that, oh, I need one more mark to pass after the grade has been released, or maybe I just need one more mark to get HD. And the second type of request is normally not processed by the university And for the first type of request, if you are in your final year, or if this course is the last course you need to graduate, the university will show you some mercy, but normally they won't accept your request. So why not get some saving graces by participating in this course? So you can do the polls or questions during lectures, and you can plus 1 gem for participating every lecture. And we can do a live poll later. And so this means that you should participate in class, in lecture. And the second way of earning gem is you can answer questions on ED to get marked as accepted. Because normally, if you post an answer on the forum, it's just an answer, and our course means we can mark it as accepted and put a green tick on your answer. And if it is marked as accepted, you can get 1 gem for every 3 accepted answers. And this is how you can earn marks by helping your peers. If by the end of the term your final mark is 3 marks away from the next level, and you have more than 12 gems, we will boost your grade to the next level. And this is a special mechanism, but I don't know if it will work, because normally the attendance for the first class should be more than this, and I intentionally made there's a timeout for the live polls. So this happens exactly during the 2 hours of this lecture. So after 4 o'clock today, you won't be able to access this poll. So you can try to scan. You can also find it on your. You can also find it on WebCMS. This is the first one. So how many students do we have today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we have 13 students, and we have more than 13 responses. And I believe this course is not having a live stream, right? I don't know. But I'm glad that most of you are taking this course because you are interested, and I hope you are not lying. So, and that's great. That's great. Let's continue. I really hope this could work. And let's come to the main content today. So, what is software testing? So, testing is actually the process, and this is a very boring definition from IEEE. So, testing is the process of exercising or evaluating a system or system component by manual or automated means to verify that it satisfies specified requirements. So this is a definition for testing, not just software testing. So if we translate this formal definition into some more human-friendly language, it could be described in 3 steps. So the first step is to create test cases or stimuli that the system must react to. And the second step is to record observations. We need to observe how the system reacted to the stimuli. And the third one is we should issue judgments on the correctness of the observed reactions. So the keywords are: we need to generate something that to run the system, and we observe the behavior of the system, and then we justify the correctness of what we have observed. So this is testing. And I believe some of you may have heard about the term of dynamic analysis and static analysis before. Have you heard about it? Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, another one. Okay, good. And because here, according to the definition, we need to observe the reaction of the system. So it means that the system must be executed, or the system must run. So this is dynamic. This is considered as dynamic. And you can think of this problem as patients, with the example of patients and doctors. So imagine software are patients, And the bugs in the software are, or the problems inside the software are like the disease of the patient. And the tester, or us, are like the doctor. So what can we do to identify the disease of the patient? I think this picture gives you the first hint. So what we can do is we can try to scan the patient. We can do a scanning and look for some patterns of disease. And this is, and similarly in software we can also do this. Given a piece of piece of code or a piece of software binary, we can do a scanning and look for patterns of bugs. So this is the first type of analysis. And what else can we do to determine if there's a disease for a patient? We can ask the patient to do something. For example, we can ask the patient to run on a running machine and observe how the patient behaves. And in this way, we are identifying the disease of the patient. And similarly, for software, we can also do the same thing. We can run the software. We can run it and see how it works. And if something went wrong, there must be a bug. So in the first type of analysis is called static analysis, because we just scan through the patient. The patient is not moving, it's not reacting. So this is called static analysis. The patient is static. And the second type of analysis is called dynamic analysis, because the patient is acting, the software is running. So that is why it's called dynamic analysis. So testing, according to the definition, is dynamic by nature. So it's very weird to say dynamic testing, because testing is by nature dynamic. And in some textbook, then people may say, okay, testing could be static. But yeah, there's some corner cases. So in this course, in the rest of this course, unless specifically mentioned, we consider testing as a dynamic software analysis technique. So you may wonder, okay, why do we need to do testing? So, like I just mentioned, testing is a process of finding bugs. And talking about bugs, do you know why an error is called a bug in software, in computing? You know why? Can you tell us why? Oh yes. Actually, in the old days, like exactly almost 80 years ago, it's also in September. So the world's first computer bug was recorded, and today is 10th of September. You don't need to. So the bug was found by this lady. So like just the gentleman said, so there was an error in the computer. The computer was, I think the university was in Harvard University. So by the old time, computers were very large, and they are working in a different way than today. So they have some mechanical components, and there's some error in the computer. And when people try to really debug, they found a moth fly into the computer and stuck there. So it's called a bug. And this lady, if you wonder who she is called Grace Hopper. And actually, it sounds like grasshopper. no disrespect, but it sounds weird if a bug is found by a grasshopper. And Yeah, and that's the origin of computer bugs. So bugs, as we know, are hindering the usability, or I would say dependability, of software systems. And there are many famous examples of bugs. And I don't know if you have heard about this one in before. So I believe all of you know what is Gangnam Style, right? And you may have watched it on YouTube, but you may not have noticed there was such a bug of YouTube. So when YouTube was first developed, nobody thought a song would get billions of views, and so there's a number to keep track of number of views on every YouTube video. And if you open YouTube, you can find there's such a field recording the number of views. And the developers wasn't expecting a video to be viewed by billions of times, and so they use a 32-bit signed integer to store this number of views in their system. And Gangnam Style was eventually turned out to be very, very popular, and it has attracted billions of views. And this is what happened. So if you know the mechanism of signed integers, so the first bit is used to mark the sign of the integer. So if it's 0, it is normally a positive number. If it is 1, it's a negative number. And this one, once the number reaches the limit of the signed integer, it overflows, and it becomes a very small negative number. And this is the bug of YouTube. And do you know how did they fix the bug? You can make a guess. It's actually quite straightforward. Not sign is not enough. Yes, they just use a 64-bit signed integer, and that's how they fix the bug. And that is a not so harmful bug, but sometimes bugs could be vulnerabilities. They could have security implications. And have you taken any security course here in USW before? No? So do you know buffer overflow could be exploited? Yes. Okay. some of you say yes, because some vulnerabilities, especially computer memory related vulnerabilities, are extremely dangerous, because the attacker could exploit these vulnerabilities to do whatever they like, essentially, for some of these very severe bugs. So if a program crashes because of a buffer overflow, let's say, the program does not just run into a bug. This bug has security implications, and these bugs are called vulnerabilities, and they could be exploited by the hackers. And one of the famous vulnerabilities in recent years is called Heartbleed. It was found in the library called OpenSSL, and you may not have heard about OpenSSL before, but you must be using it every day. So if you open your browser, most of the websites are HTTPS websites, right? So do you know the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? So what does the S stand for here?
So the S stands for secure, but
yeah.
Is it that there's encryption?
Yes. So for normal HTTP requests, they are not encrypted. They are not encrypted. And the default port listening to HTTP requests on a computer is port 80. And for HTTPS is 443. And the difference is that HTTP was so unsecure that if, let's say, we were all using the same local on the same, maybe we are connected to the same Wi-Fi router, and then if I use some kind of packet interception apps like Wireshark, I can capture all the network packets, and if they are not encrypted, I can sniff on every one of you connecting to the same network. So if the packet is not encrypted, it means that it is very, very vulnerable to the middleman attack, and the hacker could listen to whatever you send. Like maybe you are trying to log in, you are sending some credentials like your username and password to a website, and you are not using HTTPS, then the attacker can intercept your packet and get your username and password. And that's how HTTP works. And for HTTPS, it solves the problem because it is sending encrypted packets, and only the receiver of the packet could, because the receiver of the packet holds a private key, it could decrypt the packet and get the message, intended message. So it is kind of secure, and it is even if let's say I'm a hacker, I try to intercept your requests, and even if I get your request is encrypted, it means nothing to me. So that's why it is considered safe. And that's why when you are opening some of the websites, it may complain that you are trying to access HTTP URL with untrusted certificate, because the service provider, their certificate may have expired, and to decrypt and encrypt the messages. So that's why HTTPS works. And in order to power this encryption and decryption, OpenSSL was used. And there was a famous bug in OpenSSL called Heartbleed. And it is like because when you try to connect to a service, you are not only sending one packet, you are sending multiple ones, and some of the packets are used not to carry messages, but they are used for some auxiliary purposes. For example, like telling the server that you are alive, and this kind of packet is called a heartbeat packet, because you are trying to always sending some message to the server, telling the server that you are alive, and because it's so it is like a heartbeat, so that's why it's called a heartbeat packet. And in these heartbeat packets, there are a vulnerability. There are some vulnerabilities that could lead to a side channel attack. So the attacker could guess what you have sent to the server. It's somehow like the attacker can use this heartbleed attack to decrypt the message, and in this way, HTTPS is no longer safe. And this is very severe. Actually, it has caused huge impact. And it was the original. This bug was originally found by an ethical hacker, luckily, and he reported to the OpenSSL community, and he found this bug by manual review, not fuzzing here. But this bug could be found by fuzz testing. So, and this fuzz testing is related to assignment 2, and it is very useful for detecting vulnerabilities. And that's some examples of bugs, and the cost of the bugs are or the cost of fixing these bugs. You may have seen this. You may have seen this diagram a lot. So the later you find the bug, the more it costs you to fix them. And because if you find a bug before, when you are doing some requirement engineering, then it's easier because you are not doing coding. You are trying to fix the requirements, and that won't cost you too much. And if you are designing the architecture of your software, the bug will not cost you that much as well. And if you are doing coding, you can imagine that you need to debug your code, you need to fix your code. So this will cost you. And before the release of the product, most of the companies will do testing, and testing is done by a different team than the development team. So there will be some communication cost when the testing team has found the bug, and there will be the cost for fixing or debugging the bugs. So the cost increases, and it will increase a lot more after you have deployed your system, or after you have released your product, because it is now in the hand of the customers. And if you try to fix something, you have to send a patch to all your customers. You have to send an update request to all your customers. And some of your customers might be hackers. They may hack your system and do some damage. So in this case, the cost is much, much higher. So as you can see, if we can detect vulnerabilities, or if we can detect bugs earlier, we can save money. So that's why many companies, especially the big companies, they are providing bug bounties for reporting exploitable bugs or exploitable vulnerabilities in their products. And this is a screenshot from the Microsoft bounty program. As you can see, some of the bugs worth 60k USD, or maybe even 20k USD. So if you can find and report some vulnerabilities to these platforms, to Microsoft, if you can find 2 bugs per year, you don't need to work. And actually this leads to some bug bounty hunters. And talking about bounty hunters, maybe you are thinking about this. Maybe you are thinking about this if you play games. But these are the real bug bounty hunters. It's kind of boring. But yeah, there are some ethical hackers. And many people say that testing is like a destructive process, and development is like a constructive process. But I think it differently, because some of the hackers here, all of them are actually not these people on the leaderboard. They are not hired by Microsoft. They are not employees of Microsoft. They don't even have access to the source code of the Microsoft products, but they know the mechanism of these software, their target, better than the developers. So testing is not just a destructive process, not trying to crack things, but you have to be familiar with the target you test. You have to be familiar with the mechanisms of the target, maybe even better than the developers. So you should think where the developers may make mistakes and how they could make mistakes, so that you can find bugs. So these are the modern bounty hunters. And hopefully with the second projective build, you can find some bugs in real-world programs and maybe report them. But most of them are very, very hard to find. The ones with very big bounties are very, very hard to find. Now let's have a 15 minutes break, I think. And we can continue later. All right. Let's start our second half. So I believe some of you are particularly interested in playing with PyPy, and actually it's like an application of ChatGPT. It's called GPTs. And if you have a ChatGPT Plus account, you can also make one yourself. But essentially, it's made by made through the technique called retrieval augmented generation. And the workflow of PyPy is that I have supplied PyPy with a knowledge base, which is essentially a summary of some contents from multiple textbooks, and once you ask PyPy a question, your question is called user prompt. It will be combined with a system prompt, which is a predefined prompt made by me, and then together the user prompt plus the system prompt is supplied to this large language model, and this model will somehow translate this prompt into a query to query the knowledge base. And once it has retrieved, if it finds some hit, it will use the searched data to augment, to generate new content as the answer. So if you ask a normal ChatGPT, what are the assessments of the course, it won't answer you anything because it's confused. But here, as you can see, it could correctly tell you what's going on. And because now we haven't released the assignment specifications yet, so it can't tell you more details. But later on, once we update the knowledge base, it should be more powerful. And you can interact with PyPy in whatever way you like. You can also try to break it. You can try to crack it, because we are doing a testing course, and you should have the spirit of testing everything, right? So maybe you can ask PyPy, what's the color of a giraffe? I'm not typing it correctly. Or maybe that's zebra. And it should... Oh, it's not refusing to answering you. It should refuse to answer irrelevant questions. Yeah, I found a bug. And you should try to play with PyPy and try to see what's going on. And if you find any bug, you can try to report it on the forum. So let's continue. So just now we mentioned software testing is a process of finding bugs. And the purpose of finding bugs is actually to make the software more dependable. And in order to call a software system dependable, it has to satisfy 4 properties. And the 4 properties are correctness, reliability, safety, and robustness. So the first property, correctness. A program is correct if it is consistent with its specifications. And there are some restrictions with the definition of correctness. So a program cannot be 30% correct. It is either correct or not correct. So correctness is normally a goal to aim for, but it is rarely provably achievable. So if you have taken COMP3141, you may know that you can use some formal verification tools to verify that the program must have satisfied certain properties, must have been aligned to certain specifications. And that is because computer programs are essentially almost the same as math functions. So for a function, you have an input and you have a projection of the output. And for computer programs, it's also very similar. You have an input from the user, and it is somehow mapped to an output, no matter how complex the internal steps are. So programs could be mathematically verified, especially some small programs. But normally for large programs, we cannot verify them. We cannot prove that they are correct. So correctness is very ideal. And another thing is specifications could be wrong. So if you have taken the requirement engineering course here, you may know that the requirement engineering is difficult because sometimes the customer cannot tell you exactly what they want, and the project manager could not interpret correctly what the customer wants. And there's a series of these images, and eventually the developer is developing something totally different from what the customer wants. And that is not because the program developed by the developer is not correct. And that is probably because the programmers were told with wrong specifications. And the programs align with the specifications, but the specifications may not reflect what exactly is needed by the customer or the real world. So specifications could be wrong. And the second property here is called reliability. Reliability is a statistical approximation of correctness. So reliability is a measure of likelihood of the correct behavior from some period of the observed behavior. So here, this period could be a time period, like for 5 seconds. For 1 day, the program is running correctly. And it could be the number of system executions. So for example, for the counter of views for YouTube, so if the number of executions is lower than the upper limit of the signed integer, it is correct. But if it exceeds the limit of signed integer, it went into errors. And it is measured relative to a specification and a usage profile. So if you don't actually you can verify the correctness of a program without really using it, because correctness, like what I said, is mathematically provable. So you can prove the program without executing the program, but you can't tell a program is reliable unless you have executed or you have used the program. So verifying the reliability or measuring the reliability of a program requires using the program. And reliability is also dependent on how the system is interacted with by a user. Because I believe you may have heard about this joke. It is not a bug, it's a feature. So it depends on the definition of reliable is dependent on how the user interacts with the system. And the third property is called safety. So there are actually 2 flaws with correctness and reliability. So the first flaw is that the success of correctness and reliability depends on the strength of the specification. So like I have just mentioned, the specification could be wrong. So if the specification is wrong, then the actual or global correctness could not be guaranteed. So it could only guarantee that this program aligns with the specification. And if the specification is wrong, then everything is wrong. So, and sometimes specifications could lack details. So if there are some cases or some corner cases that were not covered by a specification, then the program could went wrong. So the success is relative to the strength of the specification for correctness and reliability. And the second one is the severity of a failure is not considered. Like in our previous examples of bugs, we have the bug of YouTube, we have the bug of Heartbleed, and they have different severities. The Heartbleed is obviously more severe. So severity of failure is not considered by the properties of correctness and reliability. And some failures are just naturally worse than others. So that's why we need a third property here, and that is called safety. So safety is defined as the ability of the software to avoid hazards. And hazard, it means any undesirable situation. And the last property here is called robustness. So correctness and reliability are referring to the normal operation conditions. And software that is correct may still fail when assumptions of its design are violated. So let's take this calculator as an example. So if you Google calculator, you can find this on your web page. And as you can see here in this calculator, it expects the user to it expects the user to use the buttons to key in the input. But actually this, if you open the website, it's actually a text field. It's actually a text field. So you can actually use your keyboard to key in anything you want. So what if I just randomly click on any button on my keyboard? So that is not something that is expected by the design of this calculator, right? So what will happen? And we can have a try. Google. You can also try it on your own laptop or own device. You can see this is exactly the same. So if I click on any buttons here, it should work without any problem because it is expected. It is an expected behavior. But as you can see, I can also use my keyboard to interact. And what if I randomly type? It's actually quite robust, right? If I type E, you can see it accepts E as a special number here. And if I type W, it just doesn't respond. And this refusal, this type of behavior of refusing to respond could be considered as a failure. So the system is not responding to my keyboard input. It could be considered as a failure. So software could fail, it's allowed to fail, but software that gracefully fails is considered robust. So this calculator is actually quite robust in this way. So in order to design a system that is robust, we should consider events that could cause system failures. And we should decide on an appropriate countermeasure to ensure the graceful degradation of the services. And many of you may have used try catch or all those kind of things in your code before. So that is some kind of robust design. And actually, these four concepts, they have relations. And this is how the relation looks like. So a software that is correct must be reliable. A software that is safe must be robust. And there are some overlappings and some intersections. So let's consider the situations one by one. So a software could be reliable but not correct. So remember the concepts of the definitions of reliability and correctness. So correctness means provably correct, totally aligned with specifications. Reliability is a statistical approximation of correctness. So it means that the program is correct most of the times. It may fail occasionally. The second one, correct but not safe or robust. It means that there's something wrong with the specification. So correct means the program aligns with the specifications, but it is not safe. This means that some specifications are wrong. The third case is safe but not correct or reliable. This means that the system will not, because safety is related to the measurement of severity. So safety means safe. Being safe means that the software can avoid some hazard. So it means that the software won't run into some very severe problems, but it may have correctness issues. It may have some small bugs, and it may have some annoying failures. And the last situation is robust but not safe. This means that it could have some very severe failures. So it is generally robust. It can cover some corner cases. It's robust, but it is not safe. It means that there are certain cases, there are some severe failures that the system may not correctly respond to. And now let's come to the second level today. So which one best describes the YouTube in the Gangnam Style bug case? You can do this poll on Web CMS as well. Actually, the live poll closes at 4 o'clock today, so if you want to get some extra participation mark, you have to do it before the lecture ends. So I won't show you the answers yet. So it seems that most of you can answer this question correctly. So actually YouTube in this bug is not correct but safe. So we don't consider this as a very severe a hazard. So this is just an annoying bug that may harm that is generally harmless. The only thing it harms is Google's reputation. so it doesn't harm anybody else. So this is considered safe, not correct, but safe. So the correct answer should be this one here, and most of you can do it correctly, and that's very good. So actually we are coming to an end of today's lecture. So why do we need to do testing? Let's come back to the question again. So actually you may have noticed that there is a gap between our thinking process today. So we just answered why do we need to find bugs. We have learned the definition of testing. We have learned what is a bug, and we have learned dynamic versus static, and we learned why the severity of different levels of severities of bugs, and we have learned the costs of fixing bugs. And that only emphasizes why do we need to find bugs. And that's because we want to build dependable software, of course, and we have learned the 4 properties of dependable software. But testing is not the only way of finding bugs. So there is a gap between we need to find bugs and we need to use testing to find bugs. And for example, if you have taken COMP3141, and you may have learned something about formal verification, and you know that formal verification is to tell a piece of software that is to say that this piece of software is free from bugs. And so testing is not the only way of finding bugs, and there's a gap between we need to find bugs and we need to use testing to find bugs. And we will cover that content in our next lecture. And in our next lecture, we will learn more about verification versus validation and some other basic concepts of testing. And that's all for today's lecture. Actually, in week 1, we are quite relaxed because we only learned some very basic things. And starting from week 2, we will learn more about the technical stuff. Okay. That's it. And see you on Thursday.
是可以算学分还是就是
可以算学分，但是你好像是要拿 honors student，就如果你要拿 honors，你要一定要全。
那 postgrad
哦，你是 postgrad？
对，我是 postgrad。
哦，那你怎么你选不了这个课？
哦，选不了这门课哦。
那些这门课是3开头的，只能是
哦。
你是 MQ 还是 MA？
我是 MA。